Robert Heffernan, EndoTech, exclusively for the Pareto Network, Pareto token holders. This is Blockchain Vitals, a weekly broadcast. And I am alive and well in the matrix. Spent many years in trading pits in Chicago, but I've migrated. Happy Mother's Day to all you mother crypto traders out there. It's a weekly, so, you know, as I left off on Friday's midday, that Saturday and Sunday's action was very important going forward here. As far as my involvement, I got out of everything, went to the tether on everything, and Saturday's activity was actually very encouraging for Ethereum, especially. Put in a nice doji bottom, continued higher. But I got to tell you something right now. I'm a little less than enthusiastic that this whole thing can play out to the upside just yet, and I'll tell you why. But first, let's do the rounds. Doing the rounds, a little thing we do every day in the crypto sphere, talking about the news that's in the vernacular, in the marketplace, and we get most of our news right here from the EndoTech.io homepage. Actually, it's not the homepage; it's the market analysis page, and that market sentiment area. And the one thing I want to point out today is Ethereum futures now. Ethereum futures live in the UK on a UK exchange. Just more. You know, Warren Buffett, step aside. These things are not a Ponzi scheme. All right. Do you think the Mercantile Exchange, the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, a storied history of risk analysis and providing risk solutions to people, would launch a Ponzi scheme? I just don't see it. And Ethereum now being listed futures contract in the UK. Nobody's been trading futures longer than the people in the UK, and options been doing it for longer than a century. I'll tell you that right now. The other thing that's in the news is the major conference in New York City this week, Consensus, and the Pareto team will be there, so search them out and have a chat with Ted and Eric about the exciting things coming to the pipeline in the Pareto network, and I am so happy to be involved with the Pareto network and with EndoTech, giving our expertise into the market. And you know what? Let's take the vitals and let's talk about what's going on. Because that's, you know, for me, the news is the news, and trading is trading. And sometimes they match, right? Sometimes they match up, and a lot of times the whispers are not worthy to trade. I have lost more money listening to whispers and not paying attention to the technicals than any other thing. All right, and we're talking weeklies here, so I'm gonna give you the weekly levels that are key. And for me, the biggest thing here is, let me pose this for you. All right, Bitcoin right now trading at 8704. Bitcoin in lower momentum on the daily, and Bitcoin's weekly average at 88.27. So they went right up last week and tested that weekly momentum level, couldn't get through it. Now have closed and opened below the weekly average. So for me, here's what I'm trying to wrap my head around. All right, can Bitcoin fall out of bed, right, or trade lower, or continue trading? They talked about the death cross, the 50 crossing the 100-day. The way my charts are showing it, those aren't close yet, but they're definitely inching closer. What can the rest of the quadrant possibly do if Bitcoin trades back down to, let's say, 5,000 bucks? That's the big question for me in my mind. And I have a hard time being long any of these things when my view for Bitcoin is so skewed. Now, the crosses might work great. In other words, Ethereum might just hit here and churn around. And Bitcoin might fall away, and that cross might go back to where it was at the end of January. And let's just talk about that level. hold on. Ethereum Bitcoin made a high the week of January 29th at 0.12, right? So 0.12 Ethereum per Bitcoin, or it takes, almost 10 to 1 Bitcoin. We could go back there, right? For sure. Well, why couldn't we do that? And in that case, Bitcoin can languish and Ethereum can rally. I just have a hard time thinking that you're going to get an explosive rally out of many of these others with Bitcoin heading south. And that's until the market can prove me different on that, because that's been the basic trend so far. Is if Bitcoin's falling out of the bed, the other ones have a hard time really exploding or having explosive rallies. So I'm keeping a very keen eye on that. Ethereum right now trading 730, and Ethereum 730, right there in the middle of its value range, 699 to 739 on the value range, right on the daily average at 731. A lot of room to the upside to test that up momentum level, which on the daily is 777. Ethereum on the weekly, 789 up momentum, and 641 is the daily average. They went right down to that weekly average, 641, weekly average, 641, weekly upmo, 789, weekly downmo, 492, weekly down collar, 195. Again, definitely showing more resilience than Bitcoin, Ethereum is, and then has been, and we've been talking about it. So money in Ethereum has been better played than in Bitcoin. The question is, if Bitcoin washes out, how stable can Ethereum possibly be? I don't think any of these things can be super stable if Bitcoin can't regain some strength. Now, maybe the story is that Bitcoin's first generation, and it's just going to be a store of value, and for the use cases, Ethereum's a better story, and all the tokens on Ethereum are a better story. And so maybe this cross just keeps working and working and working, and who knows? Maybe there's a day that Ethereum is worth more than Bitcoin. Why couldn't that happen? Anything can happen in these things, but I do think that people are being way keener and way more analytical on what is the potential of any particular technology going forward. What does that second generation, what does that third generation of the technology look like in any particular asset of these things? All right, so let's continue on with Bitcoin Cash. That Bitcoin Cash right now trading 1450. It's still barely an upmo on the daily. Let's take a look at that. Hold on. Let's see if I can't. There it is. Bitcoin Cash. Upmo 1653 on the daily, but upmo on the weekly 1438. So just barely an upmo on the weekly basis still. A little bit of room to go test that upmo on the daily level. Bitcoin Cash 1438 upmo on the weekly, 1137 weekly average or weekly center line. Room out to $2,040 weekly collar, $2,040. And again here, maybe Bitcoin Cash rallies as Bitcoin falls and that cross works. I just, I want to see it happen. I want to see a real decoupling where Bitcoin is down 10% or 5% or 7%, and these other ones are up 5 or 10%, where there's a real decoupling of the relationship between them, because the correlations have been so strong for so long that that story's got to be told through the charts and through actual price discovery before I'm jumping on board on it. All right. Go over a couple more. XRP trading right now, and I'm going to give you the weeklies on XRP also, and I'll give them on Litecoin because I know we got Litecoin interest in the room. Trading 72.93 against the Tether, 72.79 against the real US dollar in XRP. in the middle of its value range, but again, in lower momentum on the daily and below the average on the weekly. The weekly average XRP 0.75, down Mo XRP on the weekly 0.60, room down to 0.31 on the weekly collar. Up Mo XRP 0.90, up Mo collar 1.19. So again, this one, and we're going to look at Litecoin next, not telling a great story. I mean, if this is in the emergency room and these are the vitals, the health vitals of the particular currency, that's not healthy. All right, being below the weekly average and in down Mo on the daily, that's not healthy. That's all there is to it. I mean, I can't spin it any other way. All right, and let's go to Litecoin and tell that story. Litecoin right now trading. Where are you, Litecoin? There are so many of these currencies and so many crosses that I have a hard time keeping them all. Litecoin trading 143 right now. 143, middle of its value range, 140 to 146. Again, right there at that lower momentum level on the daily fractal. Lower momentum 143.87, Litecoin trading 143.10, so in lower momentum. Litecoin weekly average 159, all right? Weekly down Mo Litecoin 129, and weekly lower momentum collar 70, all right? $70. Up Mo on the weekly 189, room to 248 on an up momentum collar basis. But again, the patient shows up. Hi, this is the patient. This is Litecoin. Oh, let's take a look at Litecoin. Yeah, in lower momentum on the daily, below the weekly average, and a lot of room on the downside. Again, not telling a great story. And if Bitcoin can't maintain its weekly average and is in lower momentum on the daily and starts to fall south, I don't, there hasn't been that story yet where Bitcoin falls apart and everybody else rallies. All right, so that's what I'm waiting to see. I'm on the sideline right now. I am on the sideline, and two things. If I can see a real decoupling of any of these versus Bitcoin, then I got no problem jumping in. And or if Ethereum can retake its up Mo on the daily, I'm ready to jump in on that action too. But I really want to see a decoupling. Ethereum, these stronger ones, against Bitcoin, and see Bitcoin down 10% and Ethereum up 5%. I mean, that tells me that the dynamic has changed. And until I see that, I'm playing it safe. I'm playing it cautious because I still think there's downside to be exposed here until we get some more positive, healthy action out of that Bitcoin. All right, you guys have a great trading day, great trading week. I will stop in and see how things are going tomorrow and give an update on what's going on from my perspective. Until then, stay disciplined, trade your trading system, and please incorporate some of this awesome technology at EndoTech.io to help you along that path. We have fully functional portfolio signals being generated on alpha and beta portfolios on some of the majors. So by all means, if you are a Pareto token holder, start consuming the content and trade more disciplined. All right, that's the key, discipline. All right, have a great one.